I am pleased to introduce Erin Dennehy, who is a wonderful person. She graduated from the College of Holy Cross in 2019 with a BA in Environmental Studies and Sociology. She is now hoping, she better graduate from the O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs in the spring of 24. And she's going to be looking for job opportunities where she can help build more resilient and sustainable communities. And I can say she will be an asset to any place that she does move on to. She currently worked with the town on our climate leadership goals and commitments. She worked with our energy committee and various other committees and entities throughout Durham. She reached out to a lot of local and national organizations to get information. She's been a tremendous asset to the town. She worked on putting together templates for future fellows, which is a great thing to have. So hopefully they can come up to speed a lot quicker. But she was just a joy to work with, and I thank her for her commitment and move it on to let her show you what she's learned.
Thanks so much, Gail. As Gail mentioned, I've had the privilege of working with Durham this summer. My primary goal was the climate action plan and trying to update our greenhouse gas inventory. I'm sure you've all heard some version of the adage that what gets measured gets done. And that's really the foundation of a lot of these inventories. So many communities start with them to figure out where they're at and where they want to go. And Durham was doing just that. It was trying to update its inventory from 2021 to try to get a snapshot of where we're at and what we need to improve moving forward. And you can move to the next slide, Jen. There we go. As you can see in this lovely graphic that I did not make, a lot of communities include reporting and monitoring as they move through their climate journey. It's one of the key steps that they make, and it's something that they often repeat, as I said, so that they can figure out where they're at and identify opportunities for growth. I realized very quickly, though, that the actual process is not as simple and straightforward as this lovely graphic makes it up to be. It can actually be very time intensive, especially if it's your first time. And that can create some issues, especially if it's a smaller community that might not have the capacity to be spending a lot of time on these reports. And it can create an imbalance between these two really important priorities of making progress and reporting on it. So I realized very quickly that the bigger challenge this summer wasn't just completing an inventory, though that was kind of challenging, but also just trying to find ways to restore balance between these two things so that we're spending a little less time on reporting and actually spending more of the fellowship looking at our efforts, identifying new ways to improve, and actually helping us stay on track to meet our goals. So Jen, you can move to the next slide. You might be asking how I went about this. And what I did was I used something called a knowledge audit. Basically, this is a way of looking at all the resources at your disposal and trying to identify the gaps within them. These gaps are typically what cause friction, and at least for me, caused a lot of kind of time sinks where I was spending a lot of time just trying to sort things out, figure out what I needed to do next. And so I spent a lot of time in July really trying to identify these gaps and develop resources to fill them. This included kind of your standard handbook for the next fellow so that they always know what comes next and how to go about it, as well as templates for gathering data and analyzing it. And then finally, video demos of me actually entering the data, because that was something that took a lot more time than I thought it would. So that's what I did towards the latter half of the project. And hopefully, as Gail mentioned, it will enable the next fellow to spend a little less time on the reporting process and instead focus their efforts on sharing the results of the inventory and actually applying that knowledge. You can move to the next slide. Thanks so much. That actually lends well to the next stage of the project. I'm privileged enough to be working with Durham in the fall as well. They're not rid of me yet. So I will be taking the results from the inventory and sharing those results with the community. There are two opportunities there. The first is pretty obvious. It's trying to influence behavior, show folks where emissions are maybe stagnating or going up so that we can try to influence their behavior and help them or encourage them to take steps to reduce those emissions. But the other option or opportunity is the fact that all of these stakeholders are knowledge holders. They can offer feedback and ideas for improving our current initiatives and also maybe developing some new ones. And so that's yet another benefit, I think, of reporting every couple of years, because it creates this opportunity to solicit feedback and improve. It also lends pretty well into, I think, one of the major takeaways that I had from this project, which is the collaborative nature of sustainability reporting in general. I thought that working on an inventory and gathering data and analyzing it would be quite a solitary activity, but I can honestly say there wasn't a single step in this process where I was working in isolation. I was constantly tapping into my network, folks like Jen, my fellow fellows, folks like Gail at Durham, and even like some of my professors to figure out ways to get the data that I needed, develop new ways of estimating the data, troubleshooting issues, and also developing new resources to help streamline the process that I mentioned earlier. So yeah, the importance of knowledge sharing was a major takeaway. The other major takeaway, I think, was also the importance of knowledge management, which is to say having a system in place to distill all of that knowledge that I had and that were shared with me. And that's really where a lot of those resources came in because, again, having a good system in place for synthesizing everything that you learn will enable the next fellow to not have to reinvent the wheel the next time around. It'll allow them to use their time more effectively and more efficiently. And since, time is of the essence when it comes to climate change, we really want to make sure that we prioritize that. So yeah, those were my major takeaways. And if you have any questions about everything that I just breezed through, please feel free to send them my way. Thanks so much.
Great work, Erin. Thank you. Just one question I wanted to ask.
Sure.
Knowing what you know now, how might you approach the project?
Oh, if I could do it again.
Mhm.
So from a technical standpoint, I would start data collection right away, first week, right into it. So that's something logistically, but I think a bigger takeaway is that I would kind of resist the urge to solve everything on my own. I kind of did that at the beginning where I thought, I got to solve this myself. I need to meet these deadlines that I've self-imposed on myself, but really tapping into the network that I have at my disposal. Like I said, the fellows, UNH alumni, my professors, folks within Durham to identify ways to streamline the process, not just for the future fellow, but for myself as well. I think that would have allowed me to use my time more effectively and maybe get even more done over the summer.
Great work.
Those are such great words to live by and good advice for all of us today and every day. So thank you.